Welcome to another edition of Interruptions. I'm your host, Otis Smith. Today, I got a treat for you guys. If you look at my background, it's a picture of Melvin Franklin, aka Blue, the bass singer from the Temptations, and his son, Melvin Franklin Jr. And so we're here to talk to him about his life growing up. So I want y'all, when you see this, to realize Blue, aka Blue, Melvin Franklin, has a son, Melvin Franklin Jr. When you hear him speak, he got the same bass. I thought I had some bass. I ain't got no bass compared to these guys. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I in the choir, man. I was singing baritone, man. Sometimes you think you got a deep voice or bass, and then you hear somebody else, you be like, man, I need to be in the tenor section.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel every time I'm compared to my father. Like, are you serious? Like, have you heard that, man? Like, I'm nowhere close. Like, it's not, he was on a completely different level.
I wanna my first question for you is I wanted to ask, I know you spoke about it a little bit before on interviews or on your YouTube channel, but um how did you end up like in a group home? You grew up in a group home. And so how did that happen? Like how did you when people are curious, especially, saying how famous your father was. And so, just that dynamic, how did that come about?
Look at that. Has been a question that
Mhm.
has come up a lot, and
Yeah, I know.
I've never really gone into real depth
Okay,
detail about it. Just kind of gloss over it. Um, so first of all, let me start here.
sure.
I don't believe
Hmm.
in my heart of hearts
Hmm.
that my father even knew,
Gotcha.
to keep it 100. Because I didn't grow up with. I grew up. Well, okay. My earliest years,
Hmm.
single digit years,
Hmm.
was spent with my maternal grandmother,
Okay.
which is we all us grandchildren affectionately refer to as our nana,
Nana.
right?
Okay. Okay.
Right. So I grew up with my nana, not Mama Rose. So when I say my grandmother, the the connection to Mama Rose in the public is immediately made, and I have to establish that. Well,
Sure.
it was my maternal grandmother.
Right.
Um, so when I'm asked questions about Mama Rose, like, I'm not going to speak on something that I'm not familiar with, right?
Sure.
So
I get
I'll
it.
direct those questions to my sister David. But so I don't even think he knew.
Gotcha.
Last I saw him,
Hmm.
I was I was not. I was still living with my grandmother.
Right.
So and this was I think I was maybe 10, like not too long after this picture was
After
taken.
that picture. Okay. Okay.
Right. So maybe even right around that. Well, no. Because this what I remember. The reason why it's crazy, the things that the mind holds on to. I
Sure.
remember the shirt. I don't remember the event, but I
Hmm.
remember the shirt that I was wearing, the little dinosaur shirt. It
Okay.
was a birthday present. And so I
Okay.
remember that. And it was before I went on tour with him, which is the last time I saw him.
Okay.
So this was, I want to say I was about 10, no more than 11. And I was able to, he flew me out to Atlanta
Okay.
and they performed there and then went to Ohio to do Cleveland and Cincinnati. And I got to ride on the tour bus and everything. So, like, to a 10-year-old, this was amazing, right? This was a
Yeah, man.
fantastic experience, right? And, but for all intents and purposes, in
Hmm.
his mind, I live with my grandmother.
Right.
She's not starving, she's not struggling. So, you know, I'm assuming, putting myself in his shoes, that
Sure.
okay, as far as I know, my boy's taken care of.
Right, right, right.
Right. So um now how I actually wound up in the group home, and it's group homes plural. It was like I lost count after like five or six.
Wow.
Um but I just wasn't a great kid, you know. I had issues. I had I was, and it all sounds like excuses to my ears now.
Mhm.
But for so many years, I leaned into that. I leaned into it as a reason why I was so
Mhm.
dysfunctional. Abandonment issues with both my
Right.
mother and my father,
Right.
um, and not really be so. Growing up in my nana's home with my aunt and uncle, who are my mother's sister and brother,
Right. I
right?
got you.
So but they're, I think, like 8 and 7 years older than I am, respectively. So
Sure.
I'm more like a baby brother,
Mhm.
but I'm their nephew, right?
Gotcha.
But however, the dynamic when it came to the relationship with my grandmother is completely different because these are her children.
Sure.
And my mother was sort of a disappointment, who was my nana's firstborn.
I got you.
She was, in my grandmother's eyes, she was a disappointment.
Right.
Um, and she had, had her issues with substance
Mm.
abuse, and she had been in and out of prison. And fun little fact, fun little tidbit, she was actually pregnant with me the first time she got locked up. It's crazy. But um, so I am a constant reminder to my grandmother
Gotcha.
of the mistakes that she may have felt that she made with her firstborns, my mother.
Right.
My
Right. Your
mother is
mother.
significantly older than my aunt and uncle,
Gotcha. Okay.
right? So I think she was already a teenager when my aunt and uncle were born,
Okay.
right? So um but anyway, so I'm there with my grandmother. I'm not I'm not a bad kid, like I'm not out getting in trouble. I never gang banged. I never, you know, chased the life, so to speak.
Right. Right.
But I also wasn't, the model child. Um, I did my share of fooling around, as we all have,
Right.
but nothing. I said nothing too extreme. We weren't committing crimes. We weren't, like, the worst I would do. Like, I didn't really do a lot of homework, stuff like that, right?
I got you. I got you.
Slack off on my chores, things of that nature, right? So it got to a point where, now there was some abuse there, and I don't really like to speak because I don't want to besmirch my nana's name.
I got you.
Uh, but there were some serious cases of abuse to where I felt, as a child, I felt justified to try to run away because, like, in my mind, I just wanted my mom.
Right.
I just wanted to be with my mom. And my mother lied to me and told me, because one time when she came to visit me, I rarely saw her. And when
Okay.
she came to visit me one time when I was with my nana, as she was getting ready to leave, I inquired, why wasn't I able to leave with her?
Right.
And her response was that Nana wouldn't allow it.
Okay. Okay.
That, in essence, my grandmother was keeping me from my mother.
Right.
So what that did was plant a seed of resentment in
Mhm.
my mind towards my grandmother. Now, couple that with the relational dynamics and the abuse and all the rest, right?
Mhm.
So it was just a maelstrom of chaos and confusion.
I get it.
And I had nobody to talk to. I had no guide. I mean, they put me in therapy, and very, very quickly they decided to medicate me. So I'm like 8 years old, taking amitriptyline. And yeah, I had issues. I had issues. And
We all do.
so yeah, I felt justified to run away. And eventually it got to the point where, my grandmother was getting up there in age, and she's, I can't,
I
I'm not
can't
going
do
to
nothing
continue to
with it.
deal with this. Right. I'm not going to continue to deal with this. And hindsight is 2020.
Right.
Looking back from my position now, I
Hmm.
don't blame her. Right. So, but um, when she threw her hands up, she called DCFS instead of, maybe trying to arrange for me to stay with another family member. Maybe there were no other family members. I don't know.
Right.
That's a part of my past that's still very murky. But she calls the social worker, and the social worker comes and
Okay.
picks me up, takes me to a foster home. I'm crying buckets of tears. Like
You
I didn't
probably
even
felt
know I
like
had.
you probably felt like you were going to jail.
Yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
did. Like I didn't know I didn't know what was going on. And little did I know that was the least of my concerns at that time. But so the social worker, I'm in the car with the social worker takes me. We're driving like close to an hour in the middle of nowhere, and takes me to this foster home and introduces me to my new foster parents. And that was how I entered into the
The
system.
system. Right.
Right.
And I know you mentioned, like you said, it was, more than one. Um, when you were at, you were how old were you right around that time?
This is about 11, maybe,
11.
yeah, 11.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause this was right after. That's why I said in my mind, I'm thinking that my father had no idea, because this was like literally right after I came back from going on tour with him, like maybe a few months later.
A few months later. As you was growing up at that time, especially when you around 11 and 12, you know how it is when we start hitting those preteen, and then we start hitting them teenage years. Um, and like you said, you're in a group home. I can imagine you you might have felt like you were missing some stuff. Not just the family, but maybe the ordinary way of growing up, you know, that you might have saw other kids before you were in the group home, before when you were living with your nana, when you were in when you started going from group home to group home, um, were you questioning yourself, like why it seemed like you the outcast?
That's a great question. To be honest with you, all it did was solidify what I had already been feeling for years. I had always felt isolated. I had
Gotcha.
always felt abandoned. I always felt like an outcast. I felt like the black sheep, both metaphorically and literally, because now, while this dynamic does not translate to the global population as a
Hmm.
whole,
Hmm.
but within our community, within the black community, it
Right.
actually means something. I grew up in a house full of light skinned people, and I was the only dark skinned person in the entire home. So I'm literally the black sheep, right? And I was treated as such. Um, so that messed with, and I'm constantly reminded, how
I've
dark
been
I
there.
am.
I've been there,
Right,
bro. I
right,
trust that.
right.
Hey,
So
that's why I tell people now, you want to win, you got to go dog skin. You know what I'm
right,
saying? I got you, bro. I
right,
got
right,
you.
right. So I'm constantly, not only, I'm dealing with my own psychological issues, but I'm
Sure.
also, being ridiculed Um, and so I had always felt in my heart of hearts that, you know, I was an outcast, as you put it. So I had already felt that way. But once I felt as though I were cast to the side, once I entered into that first foster home, that just solidified it. So basically, it was like a steel door slamming shut. Like, oh no, it's no longer I feel this way. No, this is what it actually is. This is now my reality. I
Right.
am an outcast, not I feel like one. And so thus began the further downward spiral, which is why I say group homes, plural. I was in
Right.
one foster home. I was in a
Right.
foster home first. And once I was kicked out of that foster home,
Hmm.
I went down to the group home, which is boys' home.
Yeah.
So foster home is you have uh like you have a pair of foster parents,
Right.
and like there's really no off days. They would operate as any other set of parents
Sure.
would, making sure that you're fed and clothed and back and forth to school and medical appointments and everything else. But it's just a collection of children from all backgrounds.
Right.
So I'm in there, there was a white girl
Hmm.
in there. There was a Hispanic brother and another black dude, and there was me. Right. So, you know, a collection of children all underneath this one roof being fostered by these two, and Rudy and Barbara were so amazing. Like
Gotcha.
they no shade on them whatsoever. It was all me. Right. So, well, because I had already decided in my mind that nobody cared about me, I decided that I wasn't going to care.
Because you at that what people don't realize, and you could correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
because I by no means I believe, because I didn't grow up like you, so I don't want to, speak out of turn or act like I know, but I know for myself, seeing a therapist from time to time, and so I get transparent. Trust me, I ain't gonna let you be transparent by yourself. Uh,
I appreciate
uh,
that, bro.
oh yeah, man, you know how people do. They interview you, they let you talk, and then they try to act like they come from a perfect life. But me having, for my own mental health, dealing with uh, 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 psychiatrists or whatever you call them, having to talk to someone. I'm pretty sure you were at a place where you wanted to be seen, like you wanted somebody to see you, as a I'm talking about as a person. And when they
Mhm.
don't see you, you become not just like you said the reality far as an outcast, but you become misunderstood. Nobody
Mhm.
knows you. Like, oh, he just trouble, or he just because nobody is taking the time to actually see you yet. They don't
Right.
they don't see you. And I know, and on your YouTube channel, I remember you talked about uh what's so crazy is that you weren't with your nana, you wasn't with your mother. Probably in your head, you're trying to figure out, like when is your dad gonna come get you? As soon as he find out what's going on, he's gonna come get you. And you said that you was at, I think, at one of the group homes, and then the lady just walks you in and says, "Hey, this Melvin Franklin, his dad sings with the Temptation." And you like, what? Like, are you? What? What's? How you
Yeah.
just gonna come out and say something? How you just gonna say that? What?
Right.
What
Right.
was? What were you thinking that she was thinking, so to speak? Like,
Um, well, at the time, I
hmm,
wasn't thinking anything.
okay,
Um,
okay,
I was too numb.
okay,
While it did shock, or I did feel a stab of I guess it was anger at
hmm,
but I was mostly numb.
okay,
Now, looking back, um, I see that there were a lot of adults that took more pride in that knowledge than I did. And I'll tie it back to an earlier point you made
Okay.
in the statement that you just gave, where you don't feel seen, so nobody knows who you are. Well,
Right.
I didn't know who I was,
Yeah.
so I couldn't expect anyone else to know who I was because I didn't know who I was. But they did know who I was, and they were trying to tell me that. Again, this is hindsight being 2020.
Sure.
I did not understand that because I did not identify myself as Melvin's child.
Right.
Even though his name was on my birth certificate, his presence wasn't felt in my life.
Right.
And so my initial thoughts as a child immediately gravitated towards the parental figures that I was familiar with,
Sure.
my mother and my nana,
Right.
right? So being separated from them hurt more
Okay.
because that was where my identity was wrapped in at the
Gotcha.
time, right?
Hmm.
But now coming back, bringing it back around, when there are staff members at the group homes and in institutions as well,
Hmm.
when I was in juvenile hall, the staff would show preferential treatment to me based on who my father was.
Okay.
And, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was an identity trying to be established. Like
Gotcha.
God was telling me through the universe who I was, and I didn't see it. And so I kept identifying with the identity of my mother,
Hmm.
who was a gangster.
I get
My mom was with, God rest her soul, my mom was with all the business.
you.
Like
Okay.
it is my mom would put a lot of dudes to shame.
That's what I was about
She
to say.
was
You didn't want no problems
no,
with
she was with the foolishness, like in real life. And like all the stuff you hear people rapping about,
right.
like I've seen with my own two eyes. Like she will hop out and let
Gotcha.
loose.
I got.
And, right? My mom's was a salve, and so again, this was the parental figure that I was
Sure.
most familiar with,
Sure.
and so this was who I thought I had to be.
Gotcha. 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 I get. Trust me. I get it. I get it. When you see something, you identify with kind of what you see every day. And so,
Mhm.
for you, as far as at that time. So I get it because I always tell people, if you want to show a kid something different than the environment they're in, then you got to take them to what you're trying to show them. You can't tell them. They got
Exposed.
you got to expose them. They got to see it. So if you're talking about, you can be a lawyer or a judge or whatever, then you got to get them around a lawyer or a judge that looks like them because they
100%.
they won't. They got to identify with it. They got to be able. Now, it's not saying that that's what they quote unquote want to do, but they can identify where there's another way to go about something in your life. Also, I was listening on your channel. You talked about something that touched me, man. You talked about the day your father passed, and you got the news, and how Dennis Edward and David Ruffin Jr. found you, and that blew me away. That blew me away. I was like, wait a minute, they did what? What? They
Well, it was David. David found me,
okay,
not Dennis.
okay,
And yeah, David located me extremely quick. Like I don't, and this was before Google, y'all. Like, so
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know how, like
Okay,
this
okay.
was, or like forget Facebook. This was pre MySpace. Like y'all don't know, y'all don't understand. Like this, how this man located me in a matter of hours. In a matter of hours, as I'm sitting in my room. Okay, so you heard me explain it in the video,
Right,
right?
right,
Okay,
right,
so when I get home, after I get the news, right? When I get home and after I encounter everybody in the group home stuff, I go to my room and like within an hour or two, there's a knock on the door, like you have a phone call, and my mind is blown because I've never received this entire time. I've been in
right.
this group home. I've been in this particular group home. How long was I in Miss Green's group home? I was I was probably there for about 6 or 7 months at that time.
Okay,
And I'd never once received a phone call.
right.
Never. Like not from family, like never. So to say I got a phone call, I'm like who, me? Seriously? Right.
Okay.
So and it was David. And he's like, Cuzzo, pack your stuff. I'm on my way to come pick you up. I heard what happened. It's like, wow, okay. Um, yeah, and that's been my dude ever since. Even though we done bump heads through the years. I mean,
Right,
as because he's my big cousin. So, you know, we don't see eye to eye on everything.
right.
But, from that day forth, like it's y'all can't tell me nothing wrong about David. You know what I'm saying?
To
Like
me, when
that's
I
my
heard
guy.
when I heard that, I was like, for you, I had to say, man, he had to and let me know if I'm wrong, but for you, that had to be like almost kind of like, man, somebody loved me. Somebody took the
Yeah.
time. Somebody took the time to track me down. And then,
Well,
like
yeah.
you said,
It,
to
it
say,
wasn't
I'm
so much.
coming to get you.
Yeah, it wasn't so much love
Mhm.
because I had shut the door on love
Okay.
like years ago. I did not believe myself capable of being loved,
Okay.
but I did feel like somebody cared,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that made all the difference in the world.
That so when did you this question just jumped in my head, so I'm gonna come back to something else, but I want to ask you this question based off what you just said. When did you get to a place where you could actually receive love from someone? Because like you
When
said, when you like you said, when you say you just and feel like you could be loved, it's also when that happens, it's also hard to give love because you can't receive it. When did you get to a place that you could open up and allow somebody to to love you, even though it may not look like what you think love is or should be?
I have to say that's a great question, by the way. Um, One I've never been asked before, but the answer is very, very clear for me. The day I got custody of my daughters, when that okay, 'cause it was one thing. I felt loved when they were born,
Gotcha.
but I still did not myself feel worthy of love
Hmm.
until I was blessed with full custody of
Gotcha.
all four of my daughters, who are all by my ex-wife. Just want to put that out there,
I
like
got you. I got
not
you. I got you. I got
right.
you. For
Oh, he
me,
got 4 kids by 5 baby mamas, and I was like,
I got to
all
go
four of
put
my
that
daughters are by
disclaimer.
my
Put,
ex-wife.
put that
So
disclaimer out. I got you.
yes,
I
sir.
got you.
Yes, sir. So
And I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
no. So no, I was just gonna say that when that happened,
Hmm.
like I was so thankful I was able to look back over the course of my life
Mm-hmm.
up until that very point in time and realized that God did love me.
Yeah.
Like I never discounted God. I never discredited God. I never disbelieved God. I've always believed in God. I just
Mm-hmm.
believed he hated me.
Okay. Okay.
And I
I get
didn't
that.
know, like,
I
I
get
didn't
that.
know why. I was just like, I don't know what I did. I don't know what, but for some reason, God hates me. And it was at that point when everything that happened previously to that all
Mm-hmm.
made sense. Like when like when scripture says all things work together for the good of those who love the
Yeah.
Lord, are called according to his
According to his
purpose. Like
purpose.
it it all came around and made sense at that point for me. And I was like, wow, I've been worthy all this time and didn't realize it. So it
Because
was that.
because 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 sometimes the path that God puts us on, sometimes we think we're on the wrong path, because his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not
100%.
our thoughts, and so we like, like, why you doing this to your boy? Like, what? So what's up, man? And
Right.
and you get to a place like you said, and I'm sure like when you had your daughters, one after the other, because I have two daughters,
Hmm.
and so I know when they were born, the first thing when my oldest daughter, they're a year apart. When Jasmine was born, the first thing that came out my mouth is like, "I got you."
Right.
I got you. Don't worry. I ain't gonna let nobody, daddy. And my wife would tell you to the play. It didn't matter if you was related to me. I was like, I ain't trust nobody. I ain't.
I
I
heard that,
trust.
brother.
I trust my wife and my mama. That's what. That's what I
100%.
trust. Other than that,
Right.
bro, I wasn't trusting nobody. And so
Right.
I always let daughters know. Like if I met your daughters, I would let them know. I like, listen. Let me tell you. Your dad ain't gonna like nobody. All right. I'm just gonna let you know this, right? I'm just gonna let you know this off the bat.
Oh, they are
We don't
very
we,
familiar with that.
we don't like nobody. I
They
said
are
you
very
you can
familiar.
you can marry a dude and he could be a good dude. All we waiting on is the other shoe to drop. That's all
Yeah,
we waiting on. And
that's it.
and when the other shoe drop, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a
Man.
serious problem. So I'm with you, man, and I'm glad that you were able to feel that love and that that joy. It's just that when I heard that and you said David Ruffin Jr. Came to look for you, I just felt like, man, wow, of somebody that to even just say, I gotta find cuz, I gotta find my cuz. And because like you said, I think you said he was about 11 or 12, like the last time, like you said, you had saw your father who was able
Mhm.
to go on tour and experience all that stuff.
Yep.
And when you went to the homegoing for him, um what was that like, far as you trying to wrap your mind around that you just lost a person that you really you really didn't know, this your father, but all you could go back to is like the last time y'all was hanging out. um how did you, if you remember that day, be able to process it, and then how did you try to move forward, not get over it? Because I always tell people, you don't get over it, you just learn how to live without someone. But how did you, over the years then, too, try to process and walk with knowing you didn't get a chance to have the relationship, or he see you come into your manhood and things of that nature?
Um, my emotions were all over the place
I get it.
that day. Uh, so in full disclosure,
Sure.
uh, I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. But I, I remember two distinct things.
Okay.
Two distinct things. First was my irritation at not being called up to the front with the family.
Yeah, that would irritate me too.
And again, no shade to anybody. Whatever happened had water under the bridge. Like, I honestly didn't think at that point in time, if it weren't for David, I don't even know if I would have been there.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong. But, you know, only God and the people who were involved actually
Right.
know. So I remember that distinctly. But more than that,
Hmm.
what stood out to me the most, I could not get over the fact that I was sitting right behind Michael Jackson. Like, that's all I just kept. I was like, dude, that's Michael Jackson's literally right there. Like, that's Michael Jackson.
Hey
That's
man,
what I hope that doesn't give you a trouble, but I could
no,
not believe that this was like, wow.
the reason I'm smiling because you just went up. You listen, you just went up another level. I was going to ask you when you finished. I was going to ask you, did you get a chance to meet Smokey Robinson? And you done went up another level. Like I
Bro, I
can't
was sitting
believe
right behind,
MJ.
to his right, in the row behind. So like I'm two people to the right and right behind. So I just glanced to the left and there's Mike like right there. And I'm just like, wow. Like I'm in the presence of greatness, you
That's
know.
that's
So those are the two major
memorable.
things that I remember from that day.
Let me ask you this, and this just you looking from your standpoint point of view. When they did the Temptation story, and I'm sure you know, we were led to believe that your father one didn't have no children. First of all,
Yep.
had no. I'm sitting here like I understand you trying to concentrate on the story of the Temptations, right? But
Hmm.
I was like, you could have had somebody could have said, "Hey, Blue, how the family?" Melvin, how the kid, something. It,
Hmm.
we were made to believe that he had no family at all.
Except for Mama Rose.
Except right,
Right.
except for Mama Rose, and it's like you hear about like you said your other siblings and yourself, and it's like wow, why would you tell a story without like I said, even if you don't break everybody down, individual, you could at least say how's the, hey man, how the family, how the kids, something so that people would know. I mean, think about it, and I'm sure you and David Jr. at this, we would believe we didn't know David Ruffin had. I didn't understand that.
Okay, so this can be construed either one of two ways, but I give it to him as credit,
Hmm.
as a man who stands on his morals and principles. That movie was co-produced by Otis, right, based on a book that he wrote, right? So
Correct. Yep.
now Otis always had the principle that he stood on when it came to the Temptations brand. He was always asked, how were you able to last so long
Hmm.
and constantly reinvent yourselves and stay relevant through so many decades? And his response is always similar. We don't talk relationships. We don't talk politics. The movie is consistent with this stance. It's focused primarily on the members themselves,
Mhm.
not their relationships, not the only exception
And
being Mama
Paul.
Rose. But because, well, yeah, and Paul, right, true. But in reference to my father, the reason
Right.
why I believe,
Mhm.
now I have not had this conversation,
Sure.
this is just my own conjecture,
Sure.
but I believe it was Otis continuing to stand on the principle of we don't talk relationships, we don't talk politics.
Gotcha.
We keep it strictly about the music.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So that would be my assumption. Now I could be wrong.
No, no, I like your assumption. It's just as I think as I've asked different um R&B singers and I said, "Do you guys realize sometimes the things you guys are concerned with or worried about, your public don't care nothing about that?" And they were like, a couple of said, "Yeah, we're starting to realize that." I said, "Yeah, like
Hmm.
like like you can if you sound close to the record, I mean, before, they was fixing people voices and stuff, we
Right,
understand
right,
we
right,
understand if you get older, you can't hit the note, but if you're in your prime, if you sound
right.
pretty much like the record, that's pretty much all that your fans want. They're not
Hmm.
like I tell you, like you go see New Edition, you're looking for the steps, and them to say, we know Ralph can't sound like he was when he was 14. Come on, man. Ain't nobody
Right,
sounding like, you know what I'm saying? Your voice
right,
grow and
right,
mature. But you are looking for that showmanship that they have displayed
right.
for years. And so I say that because with your assumption, which I think is a good assumption. We would have liked to, like I said, even without going to details, just a scene or something, somebody saying, "Hey, how's the family? Everybody okay?" Because
Hmm.
then because we understand it was about the group, but we would have been like, they have families, whereas people didn't realize they had families until after the movie, and some people were kind of displeased of certain portrayals of not showing that they had a had a
Hmm.
family. So I was just curious on that. For you, just had a couple of more questions. For you, when did you get to a place of peace, far as everything that you've been through, um, things that that you as a kid should be taken care of, but just didn't have that. When did you get peace with your past and say, okay, that was the past. I made peace with it, and now I can go on with the present and the future, and give my kids what they need from me.
Great question. I would say recently,
Okay.
recently. Um, I just so I believe that because of
Excuse
my childhood
me. Hmm.
relationship issues,
Hmm.
there were a lot of things that never got worked on that I carried with me into my adulthood relationships. And never really having a chance to, or giving myself the chance to self analyze. I've damaged some really good relationships.
I get it.
And just recently,
Hmm.
I have come to the place and space
Okay.
where I'm good with me independently of anyone or anything else. Just me being okay with me by myself. I had never felt that before. And to me, for me, I should say,
Right.
that's what peace feels like. So very, very recently. I mean, I'm still obviously a work in progress,
We all are, man.
but that being said, understanding that being at peace with myself allows me to be peaceful and peaceable with others.
Right.
And I never understood that because I was always so combative. I was always so aggressive. I was always feeling the need to establish my dominance because that was the only way that I knew to get some semblance of peace. But to experience true peace, this just happened recently, bro.
Yeah, man. Like I said, man, I had to learn with my own sitting and talking to my therapist that, sometimes some of my own anger issues have came from like you and I could be in an argument
Mm,
and it may not even be, I'm really not arguing with you about what we're talking about. Sometimes the anger comes from is because I'm just simply trying to be heard. I'm trying to get you to
right.
hear me because see, you and I grew up in a time children are to be seen.
And not heard.
So I know what you say when you say, and you take that with you to your adulthood, and you start to be, like you said, combative. You don't learn how to be disagreeing with somebody without being combative. It's like you got to be combative because it's like you're not hearing me. You're not hearing, and that's what's driving you crazy is that the person won't hear what you're trying to express.
Well,
And
to take it a step further, okay,
right.
so first of all,
Hmm.
absolutely, 100%.
Right.
Everything you're saying is correct.
Gotcha.
Uh, But for me personally,
Hmm.
it went a step deeper, maybe even a couple of steps deeper because
Gotcha.
of the environment in which I was in.
Sure. Yeah.
Violence was the only thing that was respected.
Yeah.
And I was viewed as weak. So, like, I was a nerd as a kid. I kept my nose in a book. Um, I had a passion for learning. I was really quiet. And when I got down to the group home level,
Right.
these are the castaways, right?
Hmm.
These
Hmm.
are the young boys who are trying to be men, not understanding what it means to be a man, but have lacking guidance,
Right.
and your only role models are, ex-felons and drug dealers, then this is what you're going to emulate. And so I found myself falling victim
Right.
to a lot of these circumstances when I was young, and not understanding whether I just want to be left alone. Why would y'all persist with messing with me? But of course, as we all know, this is how bullies operate.
Right.
It's the lack of response that emboldens them to continue on, right? So
Right.
I had to understand, okay, well, the only way to get this pack of wolves off of me is to become a lion.
Yep.
And so that was my approach in the most formative years of a young man's life.
Right. Yep.
We're talking from the ages of 12 all the way up through 23.
Yep.
the only thing that was respected in the many environments that I had experienced throughout that span of my life, the only thing that was respected was quick, decisive, aggressive violence.
Mhm.
And when your mind, your psyche is molded, that is wired that way. As there's a saying: when you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
Mhm.
And this is how I approach life. And like I said, it caused me to damage so many relationships. Um, but coming back to the point of peace, realizing that no, I'm not just a hammer. I can
Right.
be any tool I desire to be.
Yeah.
You know, So, but that's where that aggression, that constant combativeness came from, because that was literally all I knew.
You had to
So
survive.
when
You had
I'm
to
arguing
survive.
with you, yeah.
Right.
So when I'm arguing with somebody,
Mhm.
no, I am coming from a place of no, you need to feel me or else.
Right.
Right.
I'm with I know exactly.
Right.
Trust me,
Right.
I've seen it. I wasn't well, it depends on what it was, but I wasn't
Right.
going that far, but I
Right.
knew people. So and that's why I always say, um, one thing as a parent, as you know from your own life and
Yes, sir.
things you've seen around you, um, that others don't understand, that you probably have to tell them is that, hey, look, there's certain things you just can't do to your child because you're gonna cause some damage that will take them a lifetime. And then in some people, I'm sure you've seen the parents cause some damage that it's not even, it's irreversible. Like you can't even, that person never came back. They could never get, set on whatever path that they, should have been on, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I try to approach, like that's why I always approach with my daughters. I said, okay, as long as you're respectful, now say what
100%.
you got to say. As long as you respect, because I was taking that approach. I didn't want to be saying you should be seen and not heard, because if I'm not allowing them to be heard, then I can't know what's going on up here, because they trying to
Exactly.
kids are trying to tell you, but
Exactly.
are we listening so we can understand what's going on? Because a lot of times your children want to know that you see them, because they'll be
Mhm.
like, yeah, I might come from you, but I'm not you. I'm
Mhm.
I'm not you. And so we have to understand that. And my last question, but before I go to my last question, the thing I wanted to say to you too, man, is that, man, listen, you are more than a conqueror. You know what I'm saying? God has kept his hand on you, man, all these years. With people
Thank you,
trying to
brother. I appreciate
people
that. Thank you.
people trying to break you. Um, this just the things that you had to go through and endure, and you come out on the other side, and you can, like you said, you know God is with you and God loves you, but you also know that God created somebody that was strong too. Like you
100%.
he's like, hey man, I ain't put nothing more than you could bear. But
Right.
I put this weight on you because I got what I got coming for you. This is gonna solidify, and we forget that to get a diamond, it got to go through pressure. You know, uh, some of the most beautiful things we've seen in life, it takes time to make, but it had to go through that fire. It had to go through that heat. And so I salute you, man, of you not giving up. And not only did you not give up, you continue to work on yourself to try to be a better you, right? And not stay, in the same place, whether it be emotionally, because some of the things you went through, people try to go back and get them years. Try to go back. Oh man, I'm finna hang out, man. I'm finna party, because you feel like, hey, I missed on them years. And you have allowed yourself to continue to say, you know what, I got to be who I'm supposed to be today. I can't worry
Right.
about trying to go back and get that, man. So I salute you. But my final question for you is also, with peace, did you get an opportunity, far as forgiveness, uh, far as like your mom, your nana, other family members feeling like somebody could have came and got you, or like you stated earlier, regarding that, you don't know if you would have known, I mean, if you would have been at the home going, if it wasn't for David, Jr. Have you got to a place where you could, like, forgive and just like let that, kind of let it go?
Yes. So it's it may sound weird, but I'm gonna say yes and no,
Okay.
because like forgiveness in and of itself is a part of peace,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really, and I said this may sound weird, but
Good.
I'm actually thankful. I There's no way I would be who I am without the experiences that shaped me.
Gotcha.
It- it- and what I am coming into the realization of is that every single contributor to my life,
Mm-hmm.
be it negatively or positively, was unwittingly playing a position that was already predetermined.
Yeah.
In order for me to be where I am today, the path that I traveled had to be walked.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other way about it. Pressure is a privilege. I Where I once found resentment,
Mm-hmm.
now I find gratitude
Mm-hmm.
because I know I am uniquely formed.
Yeah.
My my experiences have and continue to shape and mold me as the potter does the clay.
All
And
right.
being able to extract the lessons acquired from those experiences that I never would have received anywhere else in life, it is able to help me to become a better version of myself, which then enables me to be better for my children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
That's
I say
good.
yes and no because it's not just merely forgiveness, it's gratitude. I'm thankful.
Gotcha.
I'm thankful for I'm thankful for the group homes. I'm thankful for the penitentiary. I'm thankful for like being homeless. Like I'm thankful having been in all of these situations helps me to understand what true empathy is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am, for all intents and purposes, the lineage that I come from
Mm-hmm.
would cause one, without knowing anything else about me, would cause one to automatically assume that I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in affluence.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a righteous assumption because if we were to liken it to, say, royalty, in which
Right.
the Temptations are musical royalty,
Royalty. Yes. Yes, sir.
coming from a royal lineage, you would automatically assume, correctly so, that you were raised in that royal. capacity.
Right.
And that can, as a child growing up in that,
Mhm.
that can go one of two ways. It
Yeah.
can either make you extremely benevolent or extremely selfish and self centered.
Yep.
Me having come from that lineage, yet walking the path of a pauper, I'm able to truly understand empathy, that I am above no man, no matter my lineage.
Right.
So I'm really, 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 really thankful. And that's why I say all of this is recent. This is how I'm able to have peace. How and the peace brings joy.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can truly look at my nana, my mom, my
Mhm.
father, and thank them for playing their position. What was already predetermined.
That's
I don't
amazing.
blame them.
And the reason I say that's amazing, man, I'm starting to find out, man, for myself, 52 years of age, be 53 this year, that
Mm,
God a lot of times will give us a little glimpse of what his son went through.
mm.
So, and we don't recognize it because, like I said earlier, we talking about, hey, what I thought you looking out for your boy. Well, Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane saying, hey, look here, hey
are
man,
you sure about this? Like,
hey,
there's no other way we can.
hey man, bro, hey, like I don't look, I don't mind dying, but
Right,
it's the way you talking about dying. Like,
right.
bro,
Like,
man, this is, bro,
but
bro. But
but if
nevertheless,
that's if your will be done, not mine.
yeah, yeah, because I was I forgot who I was talking to, and we were talking about what people don't understand about crucifixion is that back then when the crucifixion it took about 3 to 7 days for that person to actually die when they were up
Right.
hanging up on the cross on the crucifix. So this is 3 to 7 days, and I said, man, I said, man, God be cheating. God cheat like I said he sat up there and said, well.
It is done.
It is done. I gotta go. I can't be hanging around here all week. I gotta go.
Right. I got places to be.
I got stuff I got to do 3 days later, man. I ain't got time to be up here.
Absolutely.
I gotta go. And so,
Absolutely.
like you said, and I think on your YouTube channel you mentioned one of the you mentioned Moses, and you were talking about how Moses was cast off, put
Right.
in and floated down, and he had to later on discover who he was and what his
Right.
purpose and what God had for him. So that's why I said we start to little by little we start to understand that in order for us to truly follow him, we're gonna have to, because remember he said in the scripture, he said, take up your cross. Take yours. I
And,
already took mine. You're gonna have to deny yourself, take up your cross,
and follow me.
and then come follow me.
Right.
So
Right. Those
so
those are the two prerequisites that we like to ignore.
yep. Deny yourself,
Right.
pick up your cross, not my cross. You can't pick my cross
Right.
up. Pick up your cross.
Right. But we
Then
all just want to
come
hop
on.
behind him and like, okay, I'm following Christ now. Like,
And
no,
like,
you got to
nah.
deny yourself, and
Yeah,
then you got to bear your own cross.
you
100%.
got to, yeah, you got to, and the thing, you ever notice the thing about the crucifixion? Before I let you go, what we don't understand, and I think you said it eloquently, as far as like the forgiveness of of what you went through, is that like you and I, we could lean down and we could put our foot instep to instep, take the spike and drive it through, right? We could even take the left hand or the right hand, take this and drive through. But guess what? You can't do it. Takes somebody else to do the other one.
Hmm.
So God, a lot of times, will use other people to help kill what needs to die inside of you.
Oh, that's good. That's
You know,
word right there, brother.
so when you said that and you said gratitude, a lot of times we don't look at it like that. Like we'll still say I forgive them, but there's no gratitude. And the gratitude is be thankful because God had to use somebody to kill some other stuff off in you.
Hmm.
So you could pick up your and follow him. So
Hmm.
man, I appreciate the time speaking with you, man. Like I said, you are a champion to me. Everything you've been through. Now you taking care of your daughters, man. You're taking care of your daughters. You're gonna be able to continue to raise them to let them know, like, hey, oh, ain't no excuses. Because if I can get through anything, y'all most definitely can get through. So I
Right.
appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. I wanna have you back on at a later time. I'm working on a thing called testimonies part two. I did a part one where I had Paul Anthony from Full Force. I had Ernest Thomas, actor Ernest Thomas from the show What's Happening.
Mm.
Um, and I had a Pastor Tim Fry and a author Janet Argo. And basically, what it is everybody just giving their testimony of what they overcame. That's all it
Hmm.
is. And so
Hmm.
I'm working on a part two. And I would love to have you back just to, just give you a testimony about like what you overcame. I'm trying to bring Merle Hodges on, former NFL running back. He overcame, he
For the
beat
Steelers.
yeah, from the Steelers, he beat
Hmm.
cancer. So just for people to see celebrities and everyday people, because as you know, so much is going on out here that if people could just hear other people's stories and see how they overcame, then they can understand no matter what they're going through, they can get through it too, as long as they don't give up. So
Yeah, and I'd be honored to be a part of that, brother. Just feel free to reach out.
no problem, man. Continue all much success, man. Stay safe out there. Continue much blessings, man. And like I say, man, you're a champion, man, and we love you, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. God bless you and this platform. Again, we had discussed this in the past. And I just appreciate the opportunity to, pay homage to one of the greatest ever at his craft. I really want it to be known because what I have been gathering. Now, I'm just going to say this last thing
No,
before I
no, no
go.
problem, no problem.
What I have been gathering,
Mhm,
the general consensus seems to be that in me sharing what transpired in my life,
mhm.
that I am attempting to do my father a disservice. And I want to use this platform to clear up that nonsense. I would never, ever, 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 ever do anything to intentionally besmirch his name.
No, you
Now,
didn't you
I
didn't you
am
didn't do that.
I am human and
Right.
therefore I am fallible. So mistakes will be made, but they are never intentional. Um, please keep in mind that he did not raise me. So I am not always immediately aware of when a line may or may not be crossed.
Right.
But I am never intentionally trying to cross that line. All I want to do is to continue to carry the torch of the legacy that he spent 37 years of his life establishing.
Well, let me say this. You didn't do that. And as you know, we talked before we got on camera, which is, we weren't going to do that. But the first thing you said, which is, I had to go off script. Because remember, I said, whatever way you go, that's where I'm going. I had to go off script. So I wanted to, first of all, let me let you know the only question I asked you that was on what I had was about how did you end up in the group home? The first question. Everything, all the other questions, I got those questions off the answer that you gave of how you ended up, and the reason being, but you said something that everybody should hear when they see this up front. You said he did not. You believe he did not know. So if he does not know, then we're not besmirching his name or you're not besmirching his name, trying to make him look bad. You're just talking about what you went through, because I want everybody to know when I first contacted you, you remember I said, "Hey, I want to do a thing, man, because the movie The Temptation didn't show your dad family, man. I want to know how." And then when you said, "Well, my father didn't raise me. This, that, and the other happened," and I'm like, "Okay." So now I said, "Okay, you know what? We got to go a different route because I, you I can't expect you to give me stories that maybe people gave you because they're not your stories. That's you trying to regurgitate, something. But you've always said, and I want people to know when they see this, and I did this on purpose because I wanted to see what you was going to say, and you said it. I said, if you remember, when I called, I said, "Oh man, you got your voice, man. You got that very white voice." And you said with that deep voice, you said, "No, Melvin Franklin." So I want
Yes,
people
sir.
to know this
Yes, sir.
man is he's named after his father, but he always give homage and pay homage to his father. He's just telling his story, what he went through as he was growing up. He's not trying to paint his dad in a bad light. So I will help, put that out there as well, because I was growing up, my father, of course, I'm named after my father. I'm the third. So
Right. Righteous.
my father, loved the Temptations, and listening to their music, watching their steps, and then let me tell you how much people love the Temptations, man.
Mhm.
If you go on TikTok, man, you got people, you got young people redoing the steps. Like they had the steps behind, from the movie. They had the steps and playing in the background, and the person are doing the steps as and to the point that one thing we know. See, everybody just credit your dad with this bass, but let me bring something else to light.
Oh, he was a beast with those steps, bruh.
Thank you, because who was in front? It was your daddy and
And
Paul.
Paul.
That was
Yep.
it. And to the
Yep.
point when they did the movie, they had to say, okay. So I always tell people, if you go back and watch the old clips of the actual Temptations, you
Yeah.
see your father and Paul. They are the ones. So when they did the movie, they had to do it the same way. So yeah, he had them steps.
He was a
He
beast with those steps,
he
bro.
had them steps. But your dad and Paul used to be getting it, boy.
Yeah. 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 100%.
So yeah, man, we just wanted, like you said, I'm glad you felt to clear that up, but I wanted to echo your sentiments on that as well, man. So, like I
Thank
said,
you.
I'm gonna reach out. We'll try to schedule that the temptation. Testimony part 2, and I'll reach out to you. But much blessings, much safe, man, and continue much blessings, man, and stay safe.
Thank you, brother. You do the same. I appreciate you.
Peace.